Well, for a long time, we've been waiting for the Thompson comeback year. And you guys, if you've watched Thompson football this year, you know this has been the great comeback year. And you've heard a lot about Thompson football in the past. So I thought it would be fun to have some of my friends come back who were coaches and football players and past at Thompson High School. And we're going to have a good time talking about the past, talking about now, and what we think is going to happen for Thompson football in the future. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I know that there's going to be a lot of views on this video because lots of people are excited about seeing you guys. I mean, I'm excited about tonight. So. Okay, you guys, 82 team, 82 state champs. Recap that year. Tell us what it was like, Mr. Glasscox.
Well, of course, it was exciting to be a coach, and we've been here a long time and had some good teams, but it came together kind of like the perfect storm. You know, we had great players. We had speed, we had size, and we had that attitude that we could compete on the state level. You know, sometimes it takes a long time to realize, hey, we're supposed to be the best, you know. But the season was magical. I get goosebumps thinking about it, relating it to what's happening right now. But I know certain games, like even Montevallo, we had a tough game during about the fourth game of the year. Everybody remembers the state championship game, but to go undefeated, we had to go about 90 yards in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game to win that game, of course. And we had about fourth down conversions to keep the drive alive and win. But, you know, every game, you know, stood on its own merit, and it was, like I say, every one of them was special, and these kids are still special to me.
Well, I know what's special, too, is even today people call you guys the dynamic duo from that time. Coach Simmons and Coach Glasscox, the dynamic duo.
Well, I don't know about that, Tim, but I thought about this after you called me and talked to me, and I think every program has to have a start and a foundation and a base for maybe a movement like Thompson's on right now. And I remember Ricky Seals, the first time Thompson ever went undefeated, 10-0, was in 1972. And for 2 years right there, we won 19 football games. And after that, until Jeff and Richard's last 3 years, we had some up and down years a little bit, but these kids never wanted to disappoint. They never wanted to be the ones that would lose. And I thought about Wade Bowen, how we got to a situation where we're 1-1-1, and Ellie and Donnie tried to talk me in and said, we got to put
David Cole.
No, the Edmondson boy, Tim Edmondson, tailback. We got to put Tim Edmondson. And by the way, you'll have to bear with us because it takes both of us. I don't know about the deal, but it takes both of us to come up with some of these
still
things.
be wrong.
35 years.
But anyway, I said, well, what are we going to do about a quarterback? And they said, well, we got Wade. I said, Wade can't. He from a little old bitty boy, he had these cards that he would draw up plays and everything. I said, we can't put Wade at quarterback. And they said, well, I think we'll be a better team. So we put Wade at quarterback. And I wouldn't take anything for that year. Probably other than the championship year, that was the most fun I had, was putting that boy in there and watching him say, hey, I'm not going to disappoint you. I'm going to win. We're going to win some games. I'm going to take whatever beating I need to take, but I'm going to come through for you. And so that was a great time. But I believe that you have to start somewhere. And I believe it started in 1972 because that's the first time that Thompson in all their history had ever been undefeated. Wow. I didn't know that. I'd heard about the Peanut Davenport years, and I thought they had undefeated teams. But Jack Ziderhook brought me a program one time. He said, I want you to know this is, until today, this is the best record we ever had at Thompson. It was 9-1. I said, Jack, you're kidding me. You mean you never went undefeated? He said, no, we didn't. The 9-1 was the best team. So that year was a turning point, I think, because before that we hadn't done very well. And so I think that kind of built a foundation, of which, like I said, I've been here watching every game almost this year, and everything starts somewhere. And I remember Andalusia, we got in on their first start of winning about 5 or 6 state championships, and they beat us 36-0 or 36-12. It was bad. And so everything has a base and a foundation. And like Ellie already said, these guys were special. And 3 years there, they won a bunch of football games. And I'll tell one quick one on Richard. His mother, he had about 104-degree fever one night at a ball game. I don't even know who we were playing. And Richard said, hey, Coach, I want to play. So I called Joanne, his mother. I said, Joanne, this boy can't play. He's burning up with a fever down here. I can just see Coach Dr. Patterson letting this boy play football. And so Joanne comes to the school, and she says, Coach, if he wants to play, let him play. I said, Joey, he's burning up with a fever. So we start pouring the Tylenol to him and the aspirin and whatever. And anyway, he played, but you couldn't get by with that today. Like I said, Dr. Patterson he operated on my shoulder. I trust him on my body, so he's my doctor. But he wouldn't let us get by with stuff that we got.
His daddy would have made him play anyway.
Probably so.
He would have overrode.
Yeah.
You could have a broke leg, and JD would have made you play.
Yeah.
Now, Jeff, what positions did you play on the team?
I played offensive line and defensive line.
Yeah, and what was that year like for you?
Well, we probably embellish it a little bit more now since it's been so long ago, from what it was. But, I think about what Coach is saying about how Thompson had built up from where it was. And we did have some pride about not wanting to lose because of the people who played before us. And, it's kind of like building a tradition. And Alabama's kind of the same way. They always take you back to the people who played before you to show you what price has been paid to get to where they're at. And, Richard and I, we've known each other since the crib. I mean, we grew up together. And back when we were playing, most of the guys, we all knew each other from a young age up. Alabaster was a small town. It wasn't the number of people that are here now. Very small. So we all knew each other. And so it gave us that kind of a close-knit deal, and we all kind of called on each other. Our huddles were a mess sometimes because we were in there screaming at each other. I don't know if Coach knew that much, but we were in there. We went both ways most of the time. I mean, like, I didn't come off the field.
Jeff never come off the field.
I didn't come off the field in high school, and I'd be dying.
We didn't have that many people, actually.
And you go and you play defense, and you're chasing a guy, and then you come in and you play offense, and Richard comes in there, and Richard was this kind of quarterback, man. He didn't play. I mean, he'd come in there, and he was like telling everybody, you better get off your butt and do this, do that kind of thing. And so, I remember.
I tell him Coach Glasscox was going to make them.
Yeah, Coach Glasscox was going to get on us, that sort of thing.
Because Coach Glasscox gave me the play, or he sent it in on a receiver. And when I go over to the sideline, Coach Glasscox, you better tell him to block. And I tell Coach Glasscox, you better block. Yeah. And that's the way it was. I think that we did have a lot of talent on that team. I mean, we had some very good players.
Right.
Four players just signed Division I scholarships and then won the next year.
Yeah.
3 that year.
Well, at 10th through 11th grade, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, we had 6 Division I scholarship players. Big Homer, 3 was in 10th grade. And that back then, nobody got. I mean, there was very few scholarships handed out back then. There wasn't any UABs or Sanfords.
At the time, I don't think that any 3A school at the time had that many Division I guys come off a team. And I guess we were fortunate. But, it still took because the numbers that we had didn't. We watched guys run on a field one time, and it looked like they never would quit coming, and we'd all run out there at the same time in just a little bunch, and it's like we were facing some odds when it come to numbers. And so it took us.
Greenville, they had.
Yeah, they had a bunch of
11 at a time.
11
at a time, and they all put their pants on the same way.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah,
they had some big boys too.
Oh yeah, I know it.
Kids, sure.
Yeah, they did. And they just kept coming in pairs, just nonstop. We was laying on our back doing exercises from the field house, and we just watched them all go by. Coach Glasscox over there scratching his head.
Yeah.
Boys, don't look at that. That was so funny. Me and Jeff tell stories you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
When we're down at the
You can't tell all of them.
No, we can't tell all of them.
No, it is. We look back on that, and the older we get, of course, that's been 35 years ago. Jeff and I are 52, but we don't think that we are, but we are. But I can't believe it's been that long ago. But we still talk about a lot of the stuff we forget. There's a lot of stuff we still remember. Good memories.
That's great. Any other stories stand out to you?
Those guys, we had, as all winning teams do, everybody accepted their role. We had some real good players. Like I said, some big guys back then. Jeff and Greg Snell were big for that, 240, 250.
Back then.
Nowadays quarterbacks weigh that much. But we had speed. We had LaBelle Bivens, who every time LaBelle touched the ball, you think he's going to score. He was just so smooth. And but everybody bought in.
Arthur.
And meatball. I mean, of course, Arthur got hurt, and we had some kids to step up.
Yeah.
Arthur was a real good player and got his knee messed up the playoffs the previous year and never got back 100%. But we had Max Brown. Max was fill in and would fight you till the nth degree. I mean, he filled in, done the best he could, and of course we started giving it to what we call meatball. That was Demetrius Street, and he was mainly a blocker his junior year. He and Arthur, of course, Arthur scored boo-hoos touchdowns, and but when we didn't have Arthur, we started giving it to Demetrius, and he scored 30-something touchdowns his senior year, so we wasn't very smart to give it to him already. But anyway, but he never complained. Nobody really cared about who had the stats or the yards. It was just having your goal of winning, you know. It was kind of.
I think one thing that people forget, because Richard and I talk about this too, is our junior year, we were basically one play away from going to the state championship game. And based on what happened in the state championship game, we would have had a good chance to win. And I'm talking about, when I say one play away, I'm talking about fourth down. And they just happened to call it a good play, a little screen play. But we were that close to having gone to the state championship the year before.
The team that beat us, Eufaula, came back and beat in the final game 42-7, which I know you can't compare scores, but it appeared that we were playing the best team out of the last four schools. But
Every coach has a game or a play or something that haunts him, and this has been 36 years ago, and that still haunts me to this day that we lost that ball game. But what happened is we had our defensive end got hurt. He comes off the field, and Donnie Kennedy, who's our defensive coordinator, we're sending in a boy. I won't call his name, but we're going to send a guy in. And what we told him, we said,
Good
you
kid,
got to
too.
watch. You just can't let that back out on your side. You got to knock him down or stay with him, because we knew he could come out and catch the football. And they ran it perfect. He went by him, never even checked him. He just went right by him, and they ran it to the 1/2 yard line, I guess. And like Jeff said, it was fourth down. We had the ball game won, and could have probably won 2 state championships back-to-back, except that one play just killed us.
Wow.
And so till this day, I'm still bothered by the fact that we were so close.
Yeah.
And I guess I think about it because I'm an Alabama fan. I think about them last year. You know, who would have thought? They go down and they score with 2 minutes to go in a ball game, and then Clemson comes back and they can't hold them. I mean, who would have thought Alabama's defense can't hold us? And I know that'll haunt Coach Saban. He's won a lot of it. I promise you that game will haunt him, because, I mean, they should have beat them, should have had the game, and they couldn't hold on to it. So it's not about what you might do, it's about what you are going to do.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about Thompson this year. Such a fun team to watch play. I mean, I've been to every game but one, and we went to the Shrimp Festival of the church. But, I mean, this team is fun to watch. I mean, that's the best way I can tell it. I mean, they play hard, they believe in each other, and I go back to that foundation, that base. Coach Freeman's been here 3 years, and they've kind of bought in. The players got to buy into what you tell them.
How impressive was it against Hoover for them to basically drive 198 yards?
That's a long drive.
You know, the end of the fourth quarter, that just shows something that we try to pride ourselves on it. We didn't score every time we got the ball. We scored kind of when we needed to. When we'd get behind, we could go down and score. But that's because everybody was so tired, and I stayed on Jeff and all pretty bad. But, you know, well, all of them actually. But I knew that they could do it. You just got to get them to do it, because I knew they could do it. And that's why I stayed on them, I guess. I knew they had it in them, you know.
This has nothing to do with the ball game, but one thing I vividly remember when we were playing Oxford for the state championship, we had our pregame meal, and we walked out on the field, and all the players were back in, and they had, I think it was 5 o'clock, they opened the gates up, and there was a bunch of people gathered around the gates. I mean, it's like it is now. Excitement is just brimming over, you know. When they opened them gates up, y'all remember, didn't you buy Bill Marsh's his insurance business?
Yeah.
Bill had one leg, bless his heart, and he was a big fan. When they opened those gates up, he had those. I thought he was going to burn his crutches off. He was right in the middle of that mob of people trying to get to those stands. And I never will forget going in the kids didn't see it. I said, to tell you how big this is, we got one-legged man out there trying to race to get a seat, you know. But I never will forget the excitement that was building when you see that kind of community that's drawn together for a common purpose, you know. And that's what's so good about it, is it gives the community pride in what we stand for in all aspects. Of course, classroom's the main thing, but athletics can certainly make that classroom experience more meaningful.
And I think y'all both, or a couple of you have mentioned just not wanting to let down the people that have come before you. So in '82, here I am, a little second grader at the time, running around the ball field, watching y'all play, and seeing y'all have success inspired me to get into football. And then, you know, we kind of went on a little lull. So now I have a sixth grader that is now eat up with football because he sees what's going on up here.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing to the point of the community. I mean, at the Hoover game, I told Michelle, my wife, she's assistant principal at Hoover, in a Hoover school now, but I drove up there to pick her up because I told her, hey, I was like, gates are going to open about 5. We need to go ahead and get over there. I mean, we're there at 4:30. We're there 3 hours before kickoff. We get in there, and before you know it, the whole side is full of Thompson people.
Oh, yeah.
So
Thompson. I've been more fans there than
this community has been starving for to see a good play. And that's not a knock on, because we didn't have the best of seasons in the early 90s. But we had some good seasons, but it's just been starving for that Friday Night Light magic, that to get everybody back involved.
That's big in a small town, I think. Yeah.
And even though we're not as small as we were, I think we're about 32,000 people live here, but on Friday nights, it's amazing how small the town gets. Because you walk into that stadium and you're like, man, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so, there's so. I walked into the Hoover game, I saw faces I haven't seen in 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, man, it's bringing out all of the guys. Mark Haynes, I hadn't seen Mark Haynes in forever.
Yeah.
He's sitting right there on the front row. I'm like, golly, man, what are you doing here? So it's just, it's great to see. It's exciting.
Chris, what do you see inside the school since you work here? You played football in
I did.
05?
05 was my last playing year, yes,
Yeah.
and I was the quarterback. But being inside the school, it's the school spirit is come back alive, and like Scott said, we have a great community that always rallied around the football program and getting the school year kicked off the right way, and they're always there, and it's good just to know that it's just not going to last 10 weeks this go around. This year, it's not going to be just a 10-week thing and done. And it's the same thing with inside the school. The kids are really excited. The faculty, staff, really excited. You know, we want our kids to do what's best and play really hard, and it's an exciting time.
And we've seen the city grow too.
Oh yeah, I mean it all starts at the top. I probably one of the most difficult decisions we made as a city council, but one of the best decisions we made as a city council was to go to the city school system, and to see those revenues stay here in Alabaster. We were talking about Coach Freeman earlier, but 7A football has turned into it's almost like an arms race, like big time college football, and you ride around the corner here and look at what we're building. And it starts with Dr. Vickers and the school board and allowing those resources to get to the people that can make our athletic programs successful, our band programs successful, our theater, our drama departments successful is just exciting to see, because what we're building over there and it's amazing to see. I mean, it looks like a small college.
I was able to meet Dr. Vickers when he first got here. As a matter of fact, my dad went with me. I forgot why he went, but we went. He welcomed us in his office, and we sat down, and he started throwing out a vision, basically, of what he was going to do and stuff. And I'm going, wow, man, this is impressive, and to see it come to life is nice. I mean, it helps everyone in this community for this school to be doing what it's doing.
Absolutely, and not even from that. I mean, we announced recently. We announced a big retail development coming out on the interstate. Well, the developer said a couple of times throughout the meetings, like, hey, I brought people in to show them the community, and I made sure to take them by what y'all are building over there with the high school, and they were all amazed and said that is something that they look for, because they, are betting that the community is going to continue to grow because of the investment in the school system.
Dr. Vickers and I have a running joke. When I was superintendent of schools in Shelby County, he was a young guy then. I interviewed him for a principal's job. he didn't get the job, but he reminds me how many mistakes I made. But doing a great job, and he was. But anyway, he tells me, and I tell him, yeah, that's the only mistake I've ever made.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And the board's doing a great job.
Yeah, Coach Simmons and Coach Glasscox, y'all are such a, to me, and two of the guys who are such a firm foundation for this place, for Thompson High School. Number one, I appreciate that. And how does it feel to you guys to see where it's come? I mean, just to have grown so much and come so far.
To me, of course, I'm dyed in the wool of Thompson. I got accused when I was superintendent of schools of being that, and deep down, I guess I was. Everybody from the rest of the county said, well, this building we're in right now, it was, a good building, but, we got criticized. I did, well, why are you putting all that money into Thompson? Well, it wasn't all that much money, but anyway, I'm excited to see what just the city council, everything is positive. Everything right now is pulling together. The whole community is growing. The people moving in here coming because we got something to offer. We got a good educational system. We got an athletic program's important too. But everything right now, everybody's in the same wagon, and everybody's pulling that same wagon right there. And it's always good for these kind of seasons to come about because it gives. Best way to remember the past is to have something that duplicates that. I mean, and I enjoy people talking about the good old days. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't, but Larry and I talk about it all the time.
We always
Y'all meet
Every Thursday morning to make calls.
The reason it can be good old days is you don't have to prove yourself anymore. You don't have to get out there like Coach Freeman. He has to put that team out there on Friday night, and we don't have to prove anything. We get better with years, and I've always known that good players make good coaches every time.
Yeah.
And I think it was Shug Jordan that said about Coach Brown. He said he can take his and beat yours, and he can take yours and beat his. And so coaching plays a little part, but you got to have good players. And we had Jeff already talked about this. We had the most players I think we ever had was about 45 players, and now Thompson will run 90 to 100 players on the field, and the school's twice the size. I mean, we were playing 3A ball, and for that time, we had some good players. We had some good athletes.
It only went to 4A then, right?
Yeah,
Well,
there's
it
four
was 4A
classes,
system,
yeah.
4 classes, and
We're
now
next to the largest.
Thompson's in 7A, and there's 32 teams, and they have to line up against somebody good every Friday night and play. And that's why I said a while ago it's just a fun thing to watch this team this year and how they've just gone about business. And the first game was tough. I mean, they're down 17 to
That's a
nothing
good
against a
team,
team
too.
I'd never heard of. I
very good
said,
team.
Coach Freeman's been brought somebody in here. I'm not sure he can beat this group. And so they were good. They had a lot of commitments on that team to college, and they came back and beat them. And I said right then, that's something pretty special. And then like Richard was talking about a while ago, to go see them beat Hoover. I knew Hoover had been there so many times, won so many state championships. They weren't going to quit. I didn't know about Thompson. I said, they're fixing to be tested tonight. And, Coach Saban talked about we get the hard test. You don't know about a team until you test it, and you got to go up against a hard test. Well, I knew Hoover wasn't going to quit, but I was hoping Thompson wouldn't quit, and they didn't quit. They kept battling, they kept playing, and that's when you know that you're building something that's good. And I personally feel like this team's going to go away. I mean, I don't know. I keep hearing that Central Phoenix City is good. Got a lot of great players, but there's some players here at Thompson. You don't convince them. And so if they get a chance to play them, and I hope they do, and I kind of believe they will, and that it may be another dogfight. So we'll see. Of course, there's a lot of teams that get through before you play Central Phoenix City, and I know that's what Coach Freeman is telling his players. And the reason I said go Warriors a while ago is if you ever call him and get his message on his machine, at the end of it, he'll say go Warriors.
Yeah.
And,
It wouldn't surprise
I had
me
to
if
say
they
that a
do
while
that.
ago and then come back and make reference to it. He coaches these boys up. Like I said, they're fun to watch, and I feel good about it. I think they're going to be okay.
I asked him the other day when he was going to pull that trick where he kind of undresses in the pimp rally. He said, I believe I better keep my clothes on. We won't mention who did that. But anyway, he thought he might be best.
These
served.
guys are being real humble, and they talking about having good players, and we were fortunate to have that. Jeff and I always talk about how good of coaches we have and how blessed we were to have good coaches, because that means a lot. Because it had everybody interested in the school. That we may have had a few guys out there who probably had no business being out there, but they wanted to be a part of the team, and that's huge. And for so many years here at Thompson, it seemed like there was a lot of other guys that was going to school here, probably were great athletes or football players, but they didn't have any type of winning tradition and didn't want to be a part of it. And now that turns everything around. You'll have even more, coming out to play football. So it can only help. Winning creates winning.
Winning breeds winning.
Yeah,
That's
That's right. We were fortunate to have good coaching in our years too.
Yes.
Ricky played here. Coach Sill played here. He came back to coach here, coached me, Coach Chris. Was here, I think we were talking about it earlier, from a tenure standpoint, it's the longest tenured coach.
17 years, I believe.
17 years here at Thompson High School, and you talk about a good man. He was
Great man.
he was just a great coach, and we came along at a time where we were coming out of the late 80s, and somebody asked me on Twitter, I was going back and forth on Twitter the other day, you got a Twitter account, Mr. Simmons?
I don't have Twitter. I don't want my face on Facebook.
But somebody asked me, going into the Hoover game, somebody asked me, like, hey, when was the last game that was this big at Thompson? And I thought, probably back when I was a freshman or sophomore, 89, when Thompson and Ricky and them were ranked high and they went to Shades Valley. Got beat 24-0 or something like that, I remember. But Thompson had a good team back then. Robert Peoples and Brett Carroll. And had some big old boys. Dorico Jones and Orlando Chappell running the ball. But it was just, Coach Sill was just always a positive influence on you. Always just, made you want to do the right thing.
Well, he cared about his players, just like these guys do. Coach Sill coached us one year. In our 11th grade year, didn't he?
He came back.
Yeah.
The Glass left for a year. Took a team.
All right, guys. Any advice you would give to this team going into the playoffs, first week of the playoffs?
Well,
for Friday night?
Obviously, and I really believe this, they don't have to play a superhuman effort. A lot of times, the bigger the stage, people get to thinking, well, I've got to do something I haven't done all year long. I've got to raise my play to where it's just unbelievable, And that's when you get to pressing. I really think, and I know Coach Freeman and other coaches will keep them, mindset is just do the same things that's been good to us all year long. They don't have to play any better. Now, granted, they're going to be a little bit more emotional about it, but just stick to your knitting, and it would not surprise me one bit to see Thompson High School win the state championship. I would not be surprised. In fact, I'm predicting it. And I don't know how good Central Phoenix City is, but we'll worry about Central when we got to get through some other. Here I am. I'm not a coach talking. We got to worry about Huntsville High School.
Yeah. What's the quarterback's first name? Is it Talia?
Talia.
I saw him the other night at the Powder Puff football game. My daughter wanted me to take her down to the Powder Puff game. And apparently his sister played in it. And I noticed him sitting up there with his mother and another sister. And I was just sitting there by myself, kind of getting ready to go or waiting to go. But I went up there and introduced myself to him. And I just, as before the Hoover game, I told him, good luck. Hoover's got a good team. I know you're not from around here. I said, but y'all can do it. I know y'all can beat them. And I told him who I was. And back when I played, he looked at me like, man, you're old. he was, very good kid.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
He's a very good kid.
But speaking of quarterback play, you played it, I played it. I mean, how many times did you throw the ball in state championship?
Well, that's what I told him. I said, if I had any records, I said, you'd already broke it a long time ago.
I happen to have that. We threw 11 passes.
11
That's
passes?
a lot for us.
Yeah, that was.
We were running team.
Oh, hey.
But Oxford only threw 7 passes.
Yeah.
They completed more to us than they did them. They completed 1 pass and we intercepted 2. That's the reason people didn't pass back then.
Yeah. But it's funny how much the game has changed.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's just so exciting now to watch.
Yeah.
You spread them all
Throw
out
it around
on
the
the field
yard,
and all this.
yeah.
I told Larry I used to go up, jump around, and do all those gyrations, but that was just because I couldn't control myself. It didn't mean anything out on the field, but now they got all these code signals and all that. I wouldn't even know how to line up the team. I don't guess it like that, but it's fun to watch.
It is.
It is.
We played 2 tight ends.
Oh.
And our backfield, it's like this way,
Yeah.
straight ahead.
Just
Oh, when Ricky came, we would split back veer,
Yeah,
run the
yeah.
option the whole
Option,
time,
yeah.
play action pass about once every 10 plays.
I may be
Yeah.
talking too much, but there was one play, and Jeff, I bet you can remember this, in the state championship game that, you always remember those plays that you think go against you, We had a little Lavelle Bivens out there, and we just run that 46 power, and we just run it, let meatball block. But we had a little reverse off of it where Lavelle Bivens would come around, and we just iced the game away earlier. We broke out and scored, but the defensive back turned on you when you blocked him. Mm-hmm. And Lavelle scored, and they called that touchdown back.
Did they? I don't know.
But it wasn't.
I don't remember that.
Hey,
No,
it wasn't up perfect, And of course, we didn't think it was a penalty because it was on us for that. But,
Sure.
But the defensive back turned, and you go ahead and you had your momentum going, and you blocked him, but he turned at the last second. But anyway, I remember that play more than I do any of the other plays.
Yeah.
Because I think we got the bad official.
Well, you know what? Here's something funny about that state championship game is it was Oxford. There was a fellow that played on that team by the name of Rick Burgess, who was, got a radio show, I believe, and
Rick and Bubba.
yeah, I believe that's it.
Yeah.
But I guess one of the things that you got to think about is you carry this with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Rick still talks about it.
We all talk about it, and Rick Burgess talks about it, but he talks about it from a different perspective. What if? And I hate that for him, but for us, we're able to talk about it and relish in that accomplishment, even though it was that long ago. And I don't think we ever really took it and kind of just, it made us, I think it did make us maybe different, because when you win something and you put the effort into it that it takes to win, it can change you. It can give you a confidence or different things that you need going on through your life. And that's one of the things that these coaches did for us, because when I went to Alabama and you start practicing against guys that have been there for 4 and 5 years, it gets tough. And as a freshman, it gets tough. But I can tell you, the practices that we had at Thompson and these guys put us through prepared me for that, because it wasn't a cakewalk. And I think the mental toughness that comes along with that it's a mental toughness. I had a coach, Al Miller. He was my strength coach at Alabama. And he's one of the baddest dudes I've ever known. And he was strength coach at Denver Broncos and at the Atlanta Falcons. And I saw him about a year ago. And I was talking to him because he put us through some stuff, and he said, I was telling him how I look back and I appreciate that. I appreciate being pushed and being made to do things that maybe I didn't think I could do, or maybe I had this in my head where I had to push on through when I would have quit if it weren't been for somebody pushing me. And I told him I appreciate that. Now, looking back at it, he told me, he said, well, Jeff, I believe this. He said, I believe the things that separate people in life is mental toughness. Because people who have it have an attitude that they can get through things when other people may just say, that's enough.
They may fold.
And for these guys, when they get this opportunity, emotion leaves a game from the kickoff. I mean, you can be fired up, but once you get hit and once it starts going, it reverts to something else. But there's going to be those times when you get tired and you say, I don't know if I can. That's when what you've been preparing for comes through. And, I think that's what these guys need to realize, that this is that opportunity. You got to have that mental toughness. You got to do the things it takes, execute it, do it, and it'll be something they can carry with them.
You never know how many times opportunity is going to knock something this big, even though they've got a lot of good players going back next year. Heaven forbid, injuries can decimate you, things can just go against you, but you just never know how many of these opportunities present themselves, like right. Jeff was talking about. I mean, you got to make sure that you seize that moment and just make sure that you don't leave anything out on that field. You give it all, and I know they will give it all.
Yeah.
What would you say, Chris, working here, seeing their effort?
I would agree. I would say, take the moment in, enjoy it, but at the same time, don't let that last too long. Look up in the stands one time and then go to work, and understand that this is something that they've been preparing for a long time, since early on in the summer, spring practices and things like that. All of their hard work starting to pay off, but it only lasts 1 week at a time, and so you've got to make sure you win the week.
Anybody else have anything?
I'm fired up.
I'll be
ready to
there
play.
cheering. That's all I can do. I have no advice.
Yeah.
Just play hard,
That's right.
and they will. No doubt about it.
I'm getting butterfly.
I know. Well, I know we are like the rest of Alabaster. We're super excited about the playoffs starting this week, and it's been fun to reminisce and talk about where Thompson's come from and where they're going. And I think Thompson has a really, really exciting future.